Everywhere GBS.
A good afternoon. It is 1 p.m. here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and this is the Ambassador with me, your Ambassador Ibrahim Said. And this is where we get to debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. On to our first story. African leaders and climate activists meeting in Addis Ababa have called for a radical shift in global climate financing, urging the world to treat Africa as a strategic partner, not a passive victim. Speaking at the second African Climate Summit, heads of state demanded investment in renewable energy and adaptation projects, with Ethiopia and Kenya leading calls for climate justice and fair. African leaders gathered in Addis Ababa this week for the second African Climate Summit, demanding a new global approach to climate financing.
The vulnerability of our member countries caused by climate change, debt burden, and the structural inequalities of the international financial architecture must be redressed through climate justice.
The summit comes amid worsening climate disaster across Africa, drought, flood, and food insecurity, despite the continent contributing less than 4% of global emissions.
The truth is undeniable. No nation can solve this crisis alone. Only through bold, united, and sustained collaboration can we avert climate catastrophe. Isolation is not a winning strategy. It is courting failure.
The Climate Summit must be able to find mechanisms of funding Africa's climate action and development. We need to make the polluters who have caused us this climate catastrophe to pay for it. We need to tax the polluters. We need to tax the super rich to be able to generate the resources and make them pay for the climate plunder that they are causing the continent.
Civil society group pressed for accountability and bold funding mechanism. Activists urge leaders to tax major pollutants and the super rich to fund African climate response. Delegates are expected to adopt the Addis Declaration this week. GBS News. And now, African leaders are turning to Ethiopia's vast hydropower resources in a bid to meet their nation's growing energy demands. In recent discussion, Kenya's President William Ruto, South Sudan's President Salva Kiir, and Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud expressed interest in improving electricity from Ethiopia to power the economic and boost regional integration. President Ruto underscored the reliable and affordable energy was critical for Kenya's industrialization and digital economy agenda, noting that Ethiopia's surplus power could help bridge supply gaps. His South Sudanese counterpart, President Kiir, emphasized that access to Ethiopia's electricity will be a game changer for his country's recovery and development, particularly in reviving industries and stabilizing essential services. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud also welcomed the move, saying that connecting Mogadishu to Ethiopia's power grid would only ease energy shortage, but also foster stronger economic cooperation in the Horn of Africa.
Renaissance Dam is not merely a national project. It is a Pan-African statement. It exemplifies the scale and ambition of African-led infrastructure and aligns with Africa Union's vision of continental energy connectivity.
We understand that water resources touches life differently in each country. For some, it's about survival and water security. For others, it's about energy and growth. All these perspectives are valid.
I am also pleased to announce that South Sudan is looking forward to signing an agreement to receive power from the dam.
Now, away from that, 2 out of 5 Supreme Court justices tasked with deciding the fate of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro have found the ex-leader guilty of plotting a coup. But Bolsonaro will only be convicted if at least one more judge finds him guilty. The former president has denied all charges against him. The first justice to cast his vote, Alexandre de Moraes, said there was no doubt that there had been a coup attempt after Bolsonaro lost the 2022 presidential election to his left-wing rival Lula da Silva. The second justice, Flavio Dino, also found Bolsonaro guilty of all the 5 charges against him.
Em relação a Jair Messias Bolsonaro,
it wasn't a surprise, but Supreme Court Justice Alessandra de Moraes' 5-hour presentation for guilty verdict against former President Jair Bolsonaro took to the form of a true crime crisis with the same drama. Bolsonaro, he said, had attempted to remain in power at any cost.
Brazil almost returned to a state of dictatorship because a group of politicians and their allies, a criminal organization led by Jair Bolsonaro, couldn't stand to lose an election. The evidence leaves no room for doubt that all defendants were aligned with the leader, Jair Bolsonaro.
In all, Bolsonaro and 7 co-defendants are charged with 5 counts of crimes against democracy, including planning coup d'etat and the storming of the presidential palace, the Supreme Court, and Congress by 1,500 Bolsonaro loyalties calling for military intervention. The former president was represented by his lawyers.
The case is riddled with flaws, violations of the right to defense. It's full of flaws. The case is null from beginning to end. And I won't back down from saying that.
Perhaps the most dramatic part was the Moraes' detailed presentation of a plan to assassinate him, as well as President Lula da Silva and the Vice President just before their inauguration. The plan was the brainchild of Bolsonaro Executive Secretary General Mario Fernandes, who admitted to have written it in presidential palace.
We are here crying out for justice, and the one who can bring justice to our nation is the Lord himself, our God.
But it's not looking good for the former president if at least 3 of the 5 Supreme Court judges find him guilty on even one of the 5 counts. Bolsonaro will be going to prison. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul.
As Bolsonaro awaits his fate, the ambassador will take a short break. We will be right back with more as we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics.
Become rather popular right here in Kenya, the K-pop culture.
I would say K-pop invokes creativity, like mega creativity. I have friends who are creative and you've done that, and they're like, yeah.
An ex told me that K-pop girls, K-pop stan girls, who's like, the men you stan look like women, and you aim to get a man that looks like that. So if you fail to find a man like that, because obviously you're in Kenya, you're not gonna find a pretty man.
For me, it's like I have 2 personalities at this point. I have my normal life and I have my army life. Because when I get into my army life, it's just like a whole new world. A community full of people who don't judge, people who accept you.
Learning Korean from a Kenyan can sometimes mess you up because they pronounce words differently, and when you speak to a native, it's like, hold up, what did you say?
I've never met like a K-pop fan. I don't know why. What am I? No, not when people want to like express themselves like, I'm a K-pop fan. Unless you see them like wearing like a branded t-shirt or a branded hoodie, you realize that they're K-pop fan.
The main campaign of BTS is loving yourself, right? And K-pop has a lot of drawbacks, just like anything else. Too much of something is poisonous, yeah? And one of the drawbacks is
it comes with beauty because they have these absurd beauty standards. While BTS passed this message that you're supposed to love yourself, embrace yourself, you're just perfect the way you are. You don't have to eat less to be beautiful. You're beautiful from the inside, right?
Get into BTS, it's hard to come out.
Okay, okay.
You'll realize that the way a man thinks, so they behave.
Interesting.
Actually, I saw a research was saying that the population in Kenya, about 70% are below 35. Leadership should be light. It should be that which helps people to see and solve their problems. Yes. I believe a good leader is not a leader that brings excuses at the table. Is a leader that says, okay, we have this problem. How do we solve it?
How do you strike that balance by ensuring these leaders can be able to call shots, but their shots are justified? No one is going to complain. In the sense of, if this person A is making decisions, even if I'm not around, I'll agree to what they say.
Okay.
Where does today come before yesterday? Kumbuka majibu fupi pale kwa SMS line at 21144.
Art should be a mirror. It should mirror things that people are going through, both the ones that are spoken and the unspoken.
What's the difference between film and theater?
Film and theater.
If you had to write an entire story without either action or dialogue, which will you choose?
Wacheni kutreat film and theater kama entertainment. Yeah. So film and theater is a very strong tool.
How do you think art is related to film and theater?
Welcome back to the ambassadors. We have more story lined up for you. Apple has launched its latest flagship smartphone, the iPhone Air, priced at $999 in what the company describes as a game changer in mobile technology. The unveiling took place at Apple's headquarters in Cupertino, California, where CEO Tim Cook showcased the device at an eager global audience. Here are the details.
Apple has launched the iPhone Air, which is thinner and lighter than any previous iPhone, introduces advanced AI features, satellite connectivity, and enhanced battery life. Apple executives highlighted its new holographic display function, improved camera system, and faster processing power, designed to redefine user experience. During the launch event, the company said pre-orders will be open this Friday, with shipping expected to begin later this month. Tech analysts have already described the device as Apple's boldest attempt yet to cement its dominance in the smartphone market amid stiff competition from Asian rivals.
They managed to squeeze, two capable cameras and the battery life and the A19 Pro inside that device, and a bigger screen than the than the iPhone 17. So you put that package together, and I think it's a pretty compelling design.
The launch comes as Apple faces slowly sales in some markets and increasing regulatory scrutiny. However, the company has consistently relied on innovation and premium branding to drive demand for its products. Previous iPhone models such as the iPhone X and iPhone 14 set new trends in the industry, and Apple hopes the iPhone Air will achieve similar success.
So I think all in all, the pricing today was about what people expected, and in some ways was positive, because what they did is they kept a lot of the prices the same, but up the baseline memory amount, which for Apple is often a big rise in price. And even the Air, even though it's a little bit higher than what the Plus was, has more capability in it, has the Pro level, chip and other stuff. So I think all in all, I think the pricing is pretty good, especially when people were concerned that tariffs could increase the prices.
Apple says it will continue to push the boundaries of mobile technology with the iPhone Air expected to play a central role in its future ecosystem. Analysts predict strong early sales, with the device likely to shape global smartphone trends in the coming years. Molly Nrono for GBS News.
In another story, Nepal is in crisis after Prime Minister Khagda Prasad Oli stepped down amid violent anti-government protests. The unrest was sparked by a ban on social media platform, which triggered mass demonstration led by Gen Z activists demanding accountability and reform. Protesters stormed parliament and set fire to homes of top leaders, including former Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal. Security forces responded with rubber bullets, tear gas, and water cannons. The government lifted the social media ban, but tensions remains high. Curfew were imposed across Gadamdu and surrounding district, and the army was deployed to secure key installations. At least 19 people were killed and over 100 injured in the clashes. Oli's resignation comes after several ministers quit, including the Home Minister, who took responsibility for the death. The president has appointed Oli to lead a caretaker government. The United Nations has urged an immediate and transparent investigation into crackdown as protest continues to demand sweeping political reforms. Now, Israel carried out an unprecedented attack against Hamas leadership in the capital of Qatar, which has been a key mediator in Gaza ceasefire talk, putting hostage negotiations at risk. Hamas said the strike killed 5 members but failed to assassinate the negotiating delegation. A Qatari security official also died in the strike. U.S. President Donald Trump expressed displeasure about the attack.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the United States military informed the White House of Israel's attack on Qatar as it was underway.
Giving a full statement tomorrow, but I would tell you this. I was very unhappy about it, very unhappy about every aspect.
In a social media post, Trump is distancing himself from Israel's leader, stating, "The plan to attack was a decision made by Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was not a decision made by me." Last weekend, Trump, on his media platform, issued an ultimatum to Hamas: accept his terms for a ceasefire or face so-called consequences. But the White House press secretary denies Trump was telegramming Israel's operation.
What did he mean on Sunday when he posted, "I've given my last warning to Hamas, etc.? He wasn't talking about this strike on Doha?
No, he was not.
U.S. members of Congress were also not aware. One Democratic lawmaker calling the strike on Doha a violation of international law. In a statement, Minnesota Congress Betty McCollum said, Israel's attack harms prospects for peace between Israel and Hamas and is further evidence that the government of Prime Minister Netanyahu has become destabilizing force in the Middle East. The attack on Qatar isn't the first time Israel has sabotaged U.S. peace efforts. In June, it also targeted Iran, just as Iranian and U.S. negotiators were set to meet for a 6th round of talks on Iran's nuclear program.
Qatar at this point, and frankly, with individuals that have been part of the negotiating team, this obviously is even further indication that the Israeli government has no interest in any kind of ceasefire.
Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul M. Minor.
And with the story, that's all for today. With me, your Ambassador Ibrahim Said on the Ambassador 1 p.m. Follow all of our stories at GBS TV Africa. It's updated throughout the day. We meet every Wednesday as we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. Thank you for your time and company.
Everywhere, GBS.